coming commission to order on Thursday, March 23rd at 6 p.m. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Fire evacuation, everybody knows, right straight out behind you, out the doors, or down these set of doors downstairs and out to the back and as far away from the building as possible, please. When the secretary is ready, please call the roll.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Louis Fiore,
Here.
Virginia Higley
Here,
is remotely.
Yep.
Linda DeGray,
Here.
John Petronella is here. Francis Alamo,
Here.
Kiran Majmudar,
Here.
Kenneth Olinsky,
Here.
Vinnie Grillo, absent. Christian D'Antonio,
Here.
and Nicholas Lefakis is absent.
Thank you. Let the record show that all seven regular members are in attendance. Ms. Higley is joining us remotely tonight. Make a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of February 9th. Excuse me, March 9th. Apologize.
So moved.
Motion made by Vice Chairman DeGray. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Majmudar. Any discussion on minutes of March 9th? Commissioner DeGray?
Page 3, third paragraph up, says motion to close public hearing made by Commissioner Higley, seconded by Commissioner Higley. I don't think she can do that. There's something about it. And then on page 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth paragraph up, it's second sentence, a map book with provided, it should be provided. But other than that, everything's fine.
Yes. That's okay.
We got a pending one for here. Is anybody being held against their will or anything like that?
No, there's no button here.
Everybody's okay? Not yet, all right. Everybody's fine? They didn't tell us, they only told us, the council chambers, they didn't tell us exactly what.
I must have hit it by accident.
That's what I figured, but.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for the quick response.
I apologize. I apologize, officers, if I did. I'm hit it setting up.
Nope, you're fine. I'd rather have it be this than that.
Well, no, that was different, wasn't it, everybody?
I was wondering what was.
Never had that happen in all the years I sat in this chair. I'm sorry, Commissioner DeGray. Under that, you noticed. Excuse me, everyone, please. We're trying to conduct business, please. Thank you. You mentioned seconded by Commissioner Higley and
Right,
yeah.
and then on page 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth paragraph, second sentence, a map book with provided for review. It doesn't really flow. Map book will be provided, I'm guessing. And that's it.
Okay. Again, I think we should probably table this because I think you're going to have to go back to the tape to actually probably correct the second of that motion, because I don't think anyone can remember who actually seconded it. Or, okay, let's make the,
Brain's not that.
yeah, so why don't we entertain a motion? Yeah, we can get it next meeting. So I'll entertain a motion to table the minutes of Thursday, March 9th, please.
So moved?
Motion made by Vice Chairman DeGray. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Limo. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So we're tabling the minutes just to correct to see. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Ginny. Just to see, who made the motion and then who seconded it for the close the public hearing, okay? No town attorney report update. Public communication. At At this point in the meeting, the Planning and Zoning Commission welcomes comments, concerns, and opinions related to planning and zoning and info from anyone who is present, provided that no one may discuss any matter of business at this time that is already elsewhere on the agenda, any matter that is part of an open public hearing of the commission, or any matter where a decision of the commission may be pending, which includes any pending legal activity. Is there anyone who would like to speak about anything other that's not on the agenda? Anyone like to speak anything other that's not on the agenda? Seeing none, public communications is closed. Is there any bond release? Seeing none, there's no presentations. So before we do something else, I need to explain that unfortunately there was an error in the time that was posted in the JI, and we have to go by that time so that the public hearing for the POCD will not be starting until 6:30. We don't really have any alternative because of that error in the paper. So we're going to go ahead and just do a couple of the regular business, and then we're just going to start the public hearing at 6:30. By law, we kind of have to do that, so I apologize for that. So seeing that, I'll entertain a motion to move new business CGS 824. Is there a motion to move?
So moved.
Motion made by Vice Chairman DeGray. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Helinski to move the CGS 824 up a notch. Would staff like to start that one off a little bit, please? Thank you. I don't think we need to read the whole thing, but I think if you just give us a general gist of what the town council and town manager are asking for, appreciate it.
So this is an 824 referral requesting that the members of the Planning and Zoning Commission send a positive referral so they could transfer ownership of the school. It has degraded, and over the years it not only degraded, but there's mold and mildew and stuff in there at this point. There is somebody that's very interested in purchasing it, and they'd like to move forward with that. There is a balance that the town owns on the property right now. The town manager and school superintendent are in the process of applying to the school construction office for loan forgiveness on the remaining $102,000 balance from the renovations that were done within the last 20-year window. And they're also working on a EPA brownfield assessment to perform hazardous building material assessment. And this is at no cost to the town. And the town council and staff are cognizant of the need to shift vacant properties into a productive use to prevent deterioration and blighted conditions, which was often the scenario in the past. From a fiscal standpoint, this eventual sale or lease will result in taxable property being added to the grand list to the benefit of all Enfield taxpayers. So there is a basketball group that would like to purchase the property. They kind of plan on having some indoor basketball courts and ultimately possibly some residential component. So there is a very valid buyer, and they'd like to stay in town, and so that's where it's at.
Thank you. If I may, as a chairman, I certainly want to mention I was very impressed and welcomed the amount of detail we did receive from the town manager on this. So this information we received on this 824 is really pretty much what we've been looking for the last few on the 824. So I want to say thank you to her and her staff for giving us the detail that we really were looking for in order to make an intelligent decision in partnership. And I want to emphasize in partnership with the town council, and that's the way the state has 824 referrals set up. So I did want to mention that. If I don't see the town manager, please thank her for me for the added information.
I will do that.
Thank you very much. Is there any questions or discussion on this 824 referral? Commissioner Helinski?
I do have a question for staff, and maybe they can help enlighten. So is it reasonable to expect that the reimbursement of the monies for the property on Taylor Road for the Nathan Hale School would be pretty much forthcoming? I mean, do many of those applications get rejected at all?
I think that they anticipate that it will be forgiven.
Okay,
So-
yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just wondering if there's any kind of preliminary go-ahead that they would give us at this point, or do they have to wait for the whole application process?
I think there's numerous things in motion at this point.
Okay.
So that's just one of the elements.
Okay, all right.
If I may, as Chairman, expand on that, I do believe that Senator Kissel, Representative Hall, and Representative Arnone are working with the legislature, whoever, with Leader Ritter down there to try to get us the waiver on the $100,000.
Good.
Whether they're successful or not, you know how that goes, Ken.
Yeah, sure.
But I do know that they are in the pipeline.
I just wanted to know, kind of what the status of
Yeah,
it was.
that's ongoing, negotiating.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner.
Yeah, I had a
Arnold.
comment relative to that, too, and I know that's part of our purview to look at that 102.
Yeah, sure.
To protect the taxpayers
Yep.
and any transactions. But I'm also thinking beside the work that's getting done in a real estate sale negotiation piece, I'm sure they can talk about, whoever the prospective buyers are, about that 102. And it could be made up that way. So I'm confident that, in either way, I'm confident in the staff and the town manager and the council to work out some kind of negotiations that would get this money back.
Okay.
No need to hold it up. I mean, get it back out of tax rolls.
Okay, sure.
That's how I feel about it. I think they're more than capable of negotiating $102,000.
Okay,
Thank you.
Let's hope.
sure.
Yeah, I got every confidence in the world in them. I think they'll do a great job.
Okay.
Thank you.
No problem. Any other discussion? Commissioner Majumdar.
Is the
This is my comment.
amount to be forgiven or hope to be forgiven, is it linked to the sale in any way? Even if it didn't have that sale, would it still continue as a forgiven type thing?
I believe it would. I'm not part of those negotiations or that process, so I really can't speak
Yeah.
to it in great
Yeah.
detail.
The other thing I read about the write-up, in the write-up somewhere, it says it'll be put to, number one, recreational use as well as mixed
Yeah.
use. Is that mixed residential use? Do we know more about it?
Oh, it'd be recreational and commercial recreation and residential is the
So-
goal for the
They'll have to come in
current
front of us.
So
prospective
it'll come
buyer.
back.
Oh, yeah, well, if this goes through, they'll be back.
Oh, yeah.
They'll be in
You-
front of us,
you-
absolutely.
All right. So our positive feedback versus some other feedback is basically just so that the council knows that we are in favor of it or not.
That's right, because we don't forget, we are the planning department. We are planning and zoning.
So
So this is actually, we're acting as in this particular application, we're acting as the planning department. And by state statute, they need our approval before they can proceed. If we didn't give our approval, then they could override us with a 2/3 vote
Yep.
and own the product. I've been on the end of that, so I've been on that end of it. So this is part of the state statute. And then if this all goes through, and if they end up selling it to this person or whoever, then they would come back to us with a site plan review or a special use permit, depending on what that buyer wanted to do. That pretty much sums it up.
Right, so that there is very strong interest in the site, and, obviously, to sell a vacant municipal property and have it redeveloped is obviously a good thing. So staff is in favor of this.
Right. So it has been vacant for quite some time, from what I remember. So I'd like not to hold up the buyer any longer than absolutely necessary. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Commissioner Higley, did you want to get in on this? I can't tell from where I'm sitting.
No.
Okay,
Everybody's asking all the questions that I was curious about.
okay, all right, great. I just wanted to make sure. See, any other discussion? Is there a motion to approve?
And Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve CGS 8-24, 5 Taylor Road, referral from the Town Council for the conveyance transfer of the Nathan Hill School property, Town of Enfield, map 110, Lot 4, R33 zone.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Helinski. Any discussion on a motion? Seeing none, whenever the secretary is ready for a roll call.
Yeah. Lou Fiore,
4.
Virginia Higley,
4.
Linda DeGray,
Four.
Francis Alamo,
4.
Kiran Majmudar,
4.
Kenneth Helinski,
4.
and Christian D'Antonio.
No, you're not voting tonight.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So So,
And,
actually, you didn't
that's-
seat anybody for Commissioner
Yeah, we didn't seat anybody for,
Grillo.
He's an alternate.
Oh, that's right, yeah, he's an alternate, so
All the regular members are here tonight.
I'm thinking Ginny,
And
right,
you-
that's it. 1, 2, 3,
Yes.
4,
Yeah.
5, 6.
And I should also mention for the
Seven is
record,
John.
I should also mention for the record that Commissioner Lefakis was here entered at about 6:10.
4.
Okay, thank you.
I just happened to look.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Lefakis, good to see you. So let the record show that was a unanimous decision to send that referral back to the council with our approval. I'll also entertain a motion now, since we have 15 minutes, to move item 19, receipt of applications, up on the agenda. Is there a motion to do that, please? Motion made by Vice Chairman DeGray. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Majumdar to move item 19, receipt of applications, up. All those in favor signify by saying aye. The record shows unanimous to move that up in the agenda. Thank you. So, Lori, whenever you want to talk about receipt of new applications.
I'm glad we have 15 minutes. We're receiving a lot of applications today. The first one is flood number 45 at 25 Hazard Avenue. This is an application for modifications of drive-through lanes, installation of freestanding canopies, and installation of grass parking medians. This is basically Chick-fil-A, so. And then the same application for Chick-fil-A for the public hearing.
And one's because we're also the flood commission or
Right.
whatever, and the other one's for a regular. Okay?
Exactly.
Yep, thank you.
And then public hearing 3060 ZA, 242, 274, and 284 Brainerd Road. This is an application for a zone change from R44 to Multifamily Housing District, or MFHD. Washington Associates of Enfield LLC, applicant owner, map 62, lot 319, and map 77, lot 68, map 77, lot 67, and in the R44 zone, and that's basically Brainerd Gardens, which is that's for the zone change, and then there's, again, for the same application for the actual 42 family detached dwelling units on a new private road. So, same map and lots as I just read for 3060 ZA. All right, public hearing 3062, 40 Conlin Drive, application to expand an existing non-conforming garage. Roger and Deborah Russell, applicant owner, map 66, lot 436, R33 zone. This is another one of those R33 zones that was overlaid on an R17 subdivision. Next is public hearing 3064, 561 Hazard Avenue. This is an application to install a 48-square-foot pylon sign in a BL zone, less than 3 acres. Connecticut Sign Service, David Hemming, applicant, O'Reilly Automotive Stores Incorporated owner, map 110, lot 387 in the BL zone. So this is a special use permit for a larger pylon sign than is typically permitted. Public hearing 3065, zoning amendment, 113 Brainerd Road. Application for a zone change from R33 to BR zone. This is for Fast Track Realty LLC, applicant, John and Patricia Ferreira, owner, map 36, lot 237, R33 zone. So this would be associated with the sports complex at the Mass Mutual site.
Thank you.
And, there's one more.
Yeah, okay. I've got 3 more here on my list, so let's see.
really?
Yeah.
SPR 1914 at 7 Hazard, and this is for Teriyaki Madness Restaurant, which is going to take over, and I think it was a hair salon in the Chipotle Plaza.
Okay.
You have more than I do?
Yeah, don't we, well, last week, I'm losing track now, we have the JFK building. That's,
I think we received that.
yes, we already, I'm just sharing the information, what's going to be on our next
okay.
agenda.
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
okay.
So we
Yep.
have the JFK, whatever you want to call it, building that they want to build.
Concession building.
Concession building, yeah.
Concessions.
And we still have, I think, the LaCory application. I'm not sure if they're going to be coming back.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And then I would imagine 9 Moody Road again.
Yep.
So as you see, our next Our next meeting in April is going to be a pretty full agenda, everybody.
So we have,
Yeah, start at 5.
yeah, not all of these items will be on the next agenda, but 113 Brainerd Road zoning amendment certainly will be, and I didn't bring my list,
That's
because
okay.
we've kind of divvied it out between the two April meetings at this point.
Chair.
Yes. Yep.
Lord, on the 561 Hazard, that's the building that's currently under construction, right?
Correct.
So they didn't have the sign as part of the application?
You know, quite honestly, more often than not, they don't. They usually
remember
come
that
back
happening
for
before.
signs afterwards. We
Okay.
try to get them to come to apply for the signs, but I think they're just not usually ready
Ready?
at the time that they do their site plan or special use permit applications.
Okay.
So,
All right, thank you.
yeah.
Well, seeing that we have no other business, I would like to entertain a motion that we take a quick 10-minute recess so we can start the public hearing at 6:30. Is there a motion to do so? Motion made by Vice Chairman DeGray. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner LaFakis. All those in favor, taking a 10-minute recess? The record showed it was unanimous. We'll be taking a recess for 10 minutes. call this public hearing open. Would the secretary please read the notice, please?
The Enfield Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing at their special meeting on Thursday, March 23rd, 2023 at 6:30 PM in the Town Hall Council Chambers at 820 Enfield Street, Enfield, Connecticut, to receive comments on the draft plan of conservation and development. The draft POCD can be viewed, and there attached is a link to a website.
Thank you. Is there a motion? Motion, John has a motion.
Yes. Yeah, Mr. Chair, I have a motion to include the following 17 documents into the record to the public hearing for the planned draft of conservation and development held on Thursday, March 23rd, 2023 at 6:30 PM in the Town Hall Council Chambers.
Thank you. Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
Seconded by Vice Chairman DeGray. Any discussion on the motion? I'll just mention for the record so everybody understands is we have all the documents and all the notes and all the emails and all the council documents that were sent to the town council on their public hearing. In addition to that, I'll have some other information to say on that later on. So, we are accepting that into our record. Seeing there's no discussion, all those in favor, we should do a roll call on that. Go ahead.
Okay. Lou Fiore,
4.
Linda DeGray,
4.
Virginia Higley,
4,
Francis Alaimo,
4.
Kiran Majmudar,
4.
Kenneth Alinsky,
4.
and John Petronella is 4.
The record shows unanimous to accept all that documentation, everything into our record. Thank you. Before we start with the public, I think Lori, our planning director, had some information you wanted to share with us or reiterate.
Yes, for anybody that hasn't been paying attention for the past 2+ years. So, what is the Plan of Conservation and Development? And we very often refer to it as the POCD. It's a 10-year community guidance document for projects and changes that are or may be desired in town. It may be modified at any time, provided changes follow state statutory requirements for notices, hearings, and et cetera. The goals and implementation strategies are a guide, a suggestion, or a starting point for further discussion. They are not mandates. Sometimes these are discussed among staff and commissions, or committees are formed to investigate and evaluate an idea. Perhaps after the examination of a goal, it might be decided that it is not in the best interest to pursue the proposed change, or that a zoning regulation text amendment might fix the issue. It is used when applying for state grants. When applying for a state grant, i.e. discretionary funding, the application most always requires an explanation on how the proposal meets the POCD of the municipality and/or the state plan, and gains extra points towards the possibility of being awarded the grant. It is required to be updated every 10 years per Connecticut General Statutes 8-23 and shall promote the growth management principles within the statute. Should a municipality not promote such principles, the state may withhold discretionary funding. And in essence, before every strategy for improvement, the word consider or investigate or research could be added. It is just a starting point for conversation. And just for clarity, we already understand that we're going to have a map book, and we will do definition section and acronyms. So that's just a brief summary of what the POCD is.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I think those of you kind of know me by now, so I do have something I do want to say before we start the public hearing, okay? So before we begin this public hearing tonight, I just want to lay out the ground rules so that everyone understands the procedures and the process. If you wish to speak, please sign up on the sign-up sheet. Everyone who signs up will be given 5 minutes to address the commission for the first time, and then an additional 3 minutes for a second round if you so desire. Please refrain from any personalities. You are addressing the commission, not the audience, so we will not allow for any interaction with those in the audience. In addition, this is not a conversation or a forum with us, so we will not be interacting with you or addressing questions that you bring up unless it's really needed in order to clarify an error. Finally, I can assure you that most, if not all, of the commissioners are either in attendance or have watched the town council public hearing on this matter. In addition, all of the minutes and various comments have been sent to the commissioners for their review prior to tonight. As you saw, we accepted that into our record. Thus, I beseech you, please, if possible, let's not be redundant in your comments and concerns, since I believe all of us have those notes, and they have been fully reviewed, and they will be discussed at a later date by all of us. So just wanted to get that out there. So seeing that, the first person who signed up is Nikki Price.
Good evening. Nikki Price, 1324 Enfield Street. I wholeheartedly agree with Karen LaPlante when she stated at the Town Council POCD hearing on February 13th, this is a plan of conservation and development. Maybe just once we can concentrate a little more on the conservation side of the plan. There are only 3 paragraphs written under Chapter 4, Natural Resources Protection and Conservation, subsection, Open Space Conservation and Preservation, versus other towns' POCDs that have multiple pages on open space within their chapters. The 3 towns I'll be referencing are East Hartford, their current POCD accepted by the OMB, Vernon, similar characteristics, and Wethersfield, the town I grew up in. East Hartford, Chapter 5, has 9 pages out of 13 devoted to parks, open spaces, and recreation. The first 2 sentences in Chapter 5.1, Introduction, the quality, quantity, and variety of parks and open spaces are important attributes that help define the character of a community. The strength of East Hartford's community character lies in a stable residential neighborhood and the abundance of parks and recreational facilities that serve them. A section within the introduction, Parks, Open Space, and Recreation Goals, promote the conservation and preservation of open space and natural resources as part of future development activity. Improve and protect the quality of life in the town by encouraging the improved use, maintenance, and rehabilitation of the park and open space system to ensure they are adequate in extent, strategic, and location, and equitable in distribution in order to meet the unique active and passive needs of the town's population. A full-page color map follows, shows the existing proposed parks and open space. This chapter includes a table listing of parks and open space inventory. 5.5 focuses on future open space system. 5.5.2 criteria for future open space acquisition. 5.5.3 open space protection focus areas. Vernon, Chapter 6, Conservation Theme. 6 pages out of 10 are devoted to open space and natural resources. Vernon recognizes these are integral to residents' quality of life. They, too, list the town's open space inventory. Vernon has 2,685.8 acres of managed open space, 23.3% of total land area, and 2,519.9 acres, 21.8%, of which are protected. Goal 8.1, objective, foster open space and trail connectivity. Goal 8.2, improve stewardship and awareness of existing open spaces and recreational opportunities. And Goal 8.6, discourage land development within natural hazard areas while encouraging land protection with natural hazard areas. Each goal lists the strategies to achieve these intents. Wethersfield, Chapter 7, addresses other issue. This chapter consists of 10 pages, to which 1 page is on preserved open spaces, and it's a doozy. Their open spaces are large, 1860 Reservoir, Mill Woods Park, Wilkes Farm, and Wethersfield Cove. The town did a survey and included their results in their POCD. The survey concluded a majority of the residents value the contribution of open space to the character of the community and its quality of life. It was in favor should the town try to acquire more land for such things as parks, open space areas, or wildlife habitat. Their preserve open space policies are: 1, support the acquisition of property and/or the dedication of open space as a way to help protect important natural resources, enhance character, and/or contribute to an overall open space system. 2, support land preservation efforts of other organizations, Great Meadow Land Trust, etc. My favorite, maintain the open space fund with adequate financing resources. Following this section is a full-page color open space map. Let's turn our attention to the community survey April 2022 conducted by Gorman and York for Enfield. Please explain to me the rationale that these results are not listed throughout this current POCD draft in their appropriate sections. Especially, most of the community does care of land preservation and open space. Hence, it is mind-boggling there are just 3 paragraphs written on this topic. In closing, the current state of this POCD is ambiguous, cryptic, and vague because it's not unique to the town of Enfield as written. As state statute allows, please do not accept this POCD for the purpose of starting over. Thank you for this opportunity to express my thoughts.
Thank you.
I'll be back for 3 minutes, Mr. Furr.
Okay. I figured you would. See, I could probably write this script. Mary Ellen DeLuzio.
Mary Ellen DeLuzio, 1330 Enfield Street. In reviewing the proposed planning of conservation and development, there is a lack of information or guidance concerning the historic district. The historic district deserves more than just a few lines that are mentioned in the current edition. After all, it is a plan of conservation. I propose keeping the pages that are in the current POCD. These also give a history of Enfield, although it might be tempting, as mentioned before, to think of the POCD as a recommendation or some kind of fluid document. But actually, I believe its intent is to provide a structure and a plan for consistent decision-making by all town officials, boards, commissions, and residency. We need consistency. In protecting the historic district, it would be nice to see a more detailed zoning explanations. For example, residential areas could have areas that are designed similar to what the town of Suffield has, such as very low density, less than 0.5 dwellings per acre, low density is less than or equal to 1 dwelling per acre, moderate density, 1 to 2 dwellings per acre, or high density, greater than 2 dwelling units per acre. The Enfield POCD needs to recognize the planning and development of special regions, such as the historic district. I would like to propose keeping the historic residential zone and identifying it as a very low density or low density zone. Considering there is no definition or limit to the multi-family dwelling, and considering it is being recommended to allow the minimum lot size for family dwellings to be lowered from 60 acres to 5 acres, which seems ridiculous, I don't think this should be allowed. For example, there are at least 14 parcels abutting or within the historic district that meet these criteria. These parcels lie between Oliver Road and Frew Terrace. Developing these parcels would negatively affect the properties within the historic district. The residential properties surrounding the historic districts could be labeled as culturally critical or a cultural heritage zone to maintain the historic nature of the area and be zoned very low density or low density. In addition, these culturally critical or culturally heritage zones properties could have other zoning restrictions, such as no buildings over 2 stories, or include language to promote architectural character of the area. This type of language is prevalent in other towns, POCD. Allowing these type of zoning categories would be a good applicable response to the table on page 48 of the proposed POCD, which points out Enfield has a great deficiency in housing for household incomes in the $75,000 to $150,000 or more income range. That deficit is 4,620 units. In comparing housing stock to our neighbor Suffield, it is noted in their POCD that population has grown steadily, and they liken that mostly to the quality of life. Where is this population coming from? I feel a lot from Enfield. This is where we have a deficiency in that housing stock. To protect the historic resources of Enfield, it would be good to consider incentives such as historic credits to encourage preservation of privately owned historic buildings. These buildings are expensive to maintain. It would be good to have wording in the POCD that says we promote architectural preservation. In conclusion, understanding the issues and concerns of Enfield residents is important so that the POCD can be crafted to the needs and wants of our residents. It should not be crafted to the needs and wants of outside developers who are not vested in our community. It should not be crafted to those who think they know better for us. Developers stand ready to take advantage of weak or unclear POCD and zoning regulations and build high-density houses that benefits them financially. They also get the added benefit of using taxpayer funds allotted by HUD. You may remember me from the times I came to speak to you about a major development affecting the historic district. Fortunately, that project was denied. However, under the current proposed POCD, this project would certainly make it easier. It is very disappointing and scary for those of us in the historic district and the many residents in our town that supported us that something like this current POCD could pass. It may be tempting to pass the proposed POCD thinking that it can be amended in the future. Well, that is a gamble. How many projects will be allowed before amendments can be made? The amendment process has just as many
You're 5 minutes up. You're almost done?
has many procedures as the POCD. Let's try and get it right now.
You can
Please
come
do
back.
not pass.
You can come back.
That's it.
Okay.
Thank you, and thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you. Yeah. And I should have mentioned if you're done and you have something you want to give staff so we can get a copy of your actual comments, that would be great, because we will review them after the meeting. So if you'd like to leave them with staff afterwards, that'd be great. Thank you. Anne Marie?
Hi, everyone. Anne Marie Galdenzi, 1330 Enfield Street. Thanks for letting me speak today. In review of the comprehensive proposed POCD, I noticed that it does not define or distinguish the different zones that are currently and have been in play in Enfield. It is best practice that residential, business, agricultural, and industrial zones all have a place in our community, even with some that might mix. I see that the POCD is the foundation of our zoning requirements and rules, which is to help preserve and maintain our community with providing a chance for growth and prosperity. Therefore, my suggestion is keeping the section from the current POCD that defines the different zone areas with what the uses are. You can reference that in Chapter 12 of the current POCD. In reading the housing and housing needs assessment provided by Gorman and L. York, there are a lot of references to urban planning and wondering why we're comparing our town to cities that have different types of communities. The POCD in place, Enfield, was compared to Somers, East Windsor, Suffield, and Long Meadow, and these communities resemble Enfield. Also referencing the housing and housing needs assessment, last page, stating that Enfield already exceeds the recommendation of affordable housing. Let's not forget the 5 approved affordable housing plans that have not yet been built and included in the assessment. Reference of the attached map showing Enfield and other towns that have met and exceeded the recommendation by the state. There have been many comments and statements made from meetings, sessions, and notes on the proposed POCD, seeming that we have an urgent need to pass this or a new POCD. But if the POCD is insufficient and does not meet the presence of Enfield with the vision of its residents, what does that bring us? From experience, any product that does not meet requirements and satisfaction is a failed product. Putting out a POCD is just getting it done for whatever reason, does not really provide quality or even adequate outcomes. It ends up causing more work, expectations, more dissatisfaction in the community. Per the state statute 823I and the state policy development coordinator, I have the attachments, mention the state does not dictate a time limit for closing public hearings or even closing the POCD after public hearings are closed to take some type of action. For example, the last POCD had 3 public hearings. Also, why rewrite the whole POCD? I'm not sure that it's needed per the state requirements. A revision of the existing POCD is valid also. I want to thank you for your time, and I hope the PZ Commission can review all the documents on this subject, as I know there's a lot, and come to a conclusion that best fits for the Enfield residents and the community, no matter what the agendas might be. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Patrick Thibodeau?
Thank you for allowing me to speak here. I thought you did a great job on the POCD.
Patrick, you have to identify yourself for the record, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Patrick Thibodeau, 20 Cora Street. You did a great job on the POCD. I disagree with parts of it, but generally overall, I really liked it. I thought it offered a lot of clarity. I think the front section should be read by everybody in our community because it provides a very precise quantitative analysis of the situation in our town. I just have a few points to make that I like to make here. I just want to first address the affordable housing. We generally consider affordable housing a burden in this town. I don't agree with that characterization, but I want to poke at the numbers a little bit. Of the 12%, roughly 30%, 27 to 30%, give or take, are mortgages, CHFA. So we absolutely want to encourage people to buy, and that this program helps people get into moderate homes is just super. And in some ways, it's really not that different from the VA loan program, which I'm familiar with. And then we have a large number of senior housing. That never seems to draw complaints. The rest are vouchers and rental assistance for people with medical conditions and single mothers with kids. I honestly think that these are assets to our community to be able to take care of people. And so I disagree that this is a burden. Now, I want to talk about something that doesn't get discussed, but it's paramount to what this process is. It's the politics around it, right? Now, I'm not bringing up the Felician sisters. I'm not relitigating that here, but I just want to bring up a point. I supported the Felician Sisters project, but I was extraordinarily impressed with the degree of organization and tenacity that the Enfield Street residents brought to this whole process. I mean, they really organized well. The signs on the street were powerful. And they've emerged, the whole single family area, the whole historic district has emerged as a potent political force. But I also believe that it's overdriving this situation. They're presenting a vision of a town that a lot of people don't support in this community and that we're really not in touch with. And that's going to be a problem for our town because we're losing our population under 25, as this thing points out. And throughout this entire process, if I were to do it over again, if I had that choice to participate, I would suggest that we do focus groups with people like at Eppendorf and some of our manufacturers to find out what they need for a labor pool, because we're losing our labor pool. We lost 2,000 jobs and we lost 6% of our population. I would suggest that we meet and survey people at Asnuntic. Those students are absolutely the people we want to buy in this town. What do we have to do to make it possible for them to buy in this town? What kind of housing? But now I want to talk on a personal level.
Excuse me. Commissioner Higley, could you mute your, can you mute? Did she hear me?
You want me to mute?
Yes, please, because we're getting an echo.
I don't think it's for me, but hold on.
Thank you.
Okay.
We were getting a back echo here. I apologize.
No problem. But on a personal level, right? Okay, so I'm living in a single-family house by myself, and right now, and I would like to kind of stay in the town. My parents are buried here. I have a lot of relatives. My aunt and uncles were up here, and so I have a lot of people in this community. But I want to downsize to a house, right? I don't want to take care of a house. In this town, you cannot buy a small condo. It just doesn't exist. I know maybe one on Elm Street, but by and large, we've somehow managed to exclude that type of housing. But I also know from experience of having owned a condo in other places that these kinds of places are very, very popular with people in the 25 to 35 year age range who aren't ready to buy a single family and want this transitional housing. So when people in our community say, come out hostile about multifamily housing and don't want it in the residential areas and don't want it here and don't want it there, I kind of take that personally. I really do. Because to me, it's just, where am I supposed to live? I really can't live in this town, at least in the type of unit that I want, because we've managed to exclude these completely. And we're paying a huge price for that because we're losing population. I don't think people understand how serious of a problem that is. We've lost maybe 2,000 jobs since 2016. We're losing our young people and we're getting older. And the older people in our town, the single-family homeowners in our town, and now the historic district in our town are dictating the town. And the town council members are under a lot of pressure because they know it only takes 300 votes one way or the other to whether somebody wins or somebody loses. You are not elected. You put this thing together. You know it's a good thing, and you know more than I do that the problems in our town are pretty serious. They're very serious, in fact, because the jobs that we're losing are not being replaced by an equal caliber. So we're not only losing jobs, but we're not replacing them with good jobs. And when site selection committees look at our community and look at our labor pool, why would they move here? Because all our demographics, everything in that first part of the report says, do not move to Enfield. You know what you have to do. The council is going to put pressure on you to make all these amendments to appease the people on Enfield Street. You know that. We all know that. So let's be frank. I urge you in the strongest possible terms to do what's right for the entire community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Lori Longai?
Hello, Lori Longi, 1427 Enfield Street. I was going to submit my comments to that I brought up at the town council hearing, but now I know that I don't have to do that. But I do actually have all new or expanded things tonight. It was mentioned the other night at the council meeting that all new plans need to consider 12 things. I have attached the 12 items, but I will only reference a few of them tonight. Shall consider is the word before each of the 12 items that the state put out. Shall consider the needs for affordable housing. As Dr. Poland pointed out, that we are already 12.42% of qualified affordable housing units, a percent that exceeds the 10% threshold established under Section 8.30G of the Connecticut statutes. This is found on page 100 on this new plan. In the second to the last paragraph in the draft, it needs to be added to the last paragraph on page 44 in housing. Page 44 has the same housing statistics that are listed on page 100. The last line on page 44, that Enfield's housing stock lacks in diversity, should be removed. It should be taken out of the book. I think because 23.30% of Enfield housing stocks is diverse, according to the statistics above. And just a quick note, the calculations that were presented in that paragraph 44 only add up to 99.80%, and it should be 100%. Page 78, if we have an inclusionary zone for Thompsonville, it says that on page 78. The POCD then in itself should satisfy any state housing requirements for affordable housing, since that zone would require developers to set aside more low-income housing. On page 45, open space and agricultural percentages do appear to be the same numbers as the last POCD more than 11 years ago. I think that they need to be current numbers. I would like to point out that their open space maps have been listed in the 1999 POCD and the 2011 POCD. And there are open space lands presently in Enfield, and they are listed in these maps. The maps I'm attaching with my documents. If goal number 10 of the state of Connecticut's goals of the POCD say, shall consider the protection and preservation of agriculture. I just don't see how it cannot be in there. It seems like this, in this POCD, it has become a pick and choose of certain areas that they want to focus on. If it's a stated goal of protection and preservation of agriculture, then it should be in it. Open space should be allowed in all areas of Enfield, and then the specific rules can be defined later in the zoning regulations. We all know it's very unlikely that the POCD will ever get opened up. The zoning regulations are going to be worked on next. The email statement that the Conservation Commission sent should be put in this POCD in its entirety. Page 48, the housing needs table, clearly shows we lack more higher-end incomes, yet the narrative on that page is geared to all lower incomes. That whole section needs editing to focus on the higher income housing. This was also mentioned in one of the surveys the town did early in the POCD, yet it didn't make it into the plan. On page 98, remove the multifamily from all industrial zones. Industrial doesn't mix well with residential, and why there are usually buffers between the two of them. It's not a good idea to have residential and industrial zones. Think about the Winstanley buildings and the neighborhoods over by the lakes. The two just don't mix well. Remove the word certain in every area concerning approvals. Nothing is certain when you're voting. The word should be replaced with clear. That was the word that was used in the prior POCD. People want a clear process. They don't necessarily want a certain process. I do appreciate and think all the residents appreciate the time that's involved in this. But personally, the public didn't have a lot of participation in it. And whether it was COVID or not COVID, I think that people work well when they can go in person and talk about it. And so I do appreciate the time to be able to do this tonight. Thank you.
Sorry, my mic's on. Lori Parker?
Hello, Lori Parker, 105 Cottage Road. I would just like to state that the plan as presented should not be passed, as there were numerous issues raised that we don't know whether they are included or not, and there were some very compelling issues. Of great concern was the suggestion to limit or cease the practice of public hearings on site plan applications. This is the only opportunity to have input on the process for site plans. There are things that the public can have input on for these plans, and it would also take away the opportunity to intervene or introduce any secondary experts. And this plan should protect the rights of the community to be able to speak. I'm also concerned about the push for the multifamily dwellings, and the plan doesn't define what it actually means. It was stated at the roundtable discussion with Tom Arnone a couple weeks ago that Enfield meets the affordable housing requirements, and that state mandate was intended for the towns that didn't. I also see a lot of information missing compared to the last POCD, which I raised at the last hearing. The document is very lean on preservation and historic districts. I'd also like to see a map and listing of all the properties that are on the National Historic Register included in the plan. There was another issue with the grassland conservation area maps by the prison that were also missing. It needs to be added, and I have concern with this area being changed to a special development district. And in general, we need some more full-size map. It would be helpful to have them included. and would also like to know if there's language including giving land use boards the ability to ensure any proposal that would abut or impact residential neighborhoods or natural resources in order not to jeopardize the quality of the abutting neighborhoods or resources and sensitive areas. In regards to the comparisons to larger towns like Manchester or East Hartford, I did not realize Enfield was moving in that direction. And why are we moving away from the small town ruralness of our neighbors like Suffield, Summers, and Longmeadow? I feel like we are moving towards the Anytown USA, where no matter what highway exit you get off, it all looks the same. We want to keep our uniqueness. I had also asked at one of the very first hearings about the three-dimensional planning, and if that is not feasible, GIS mapping showing all the proposals in town so we could have a greater look at what is forthcoming, and also a layer of all the potential developable space so that we could see how built out Enfield could wind up becoming. Overall, I don't feel this plan as presented is ready to be passed because we don't have any of the proposed changes, if there are any, that were made after the last public hearings. And there's a lack of vision in the proposal, and I would like to ask, is the vision that we have now what we are following? I was going to read it, but it's rather lengthy, and I think we all know what it says, and thank you.
Thank you. I noticed someone came in. If anyone would like to speak, I'll repeat, you need to sign up. Okay. Just want to mention that for the record. Ellen Martin?
Ellen Martin, 6 Patricia Circle, Enfield. I watched the last Planning and Zoning meeting on March 9th on ETV, and I do want to thank Chairman Fiore and Town Planner Witten for spending some time at that meeting to go over some information and clarification of the draft of the Plan of Conservation and Development. I'm glad to hear that the map quality issue will be solved, and hopefully those enlarged maps will be helpful when others come before this commission wanting to put something in a water-protected area or an open space area. The only thing I would ask of this commission is to honor those protected areas by protecting them. And with enlarged readable maps, it will be easier to know exactly where the protected areas are. I was also glad to hear there's going to be a definition section. It's going to make it a whole lot easier for some of the residents of Enfield to understand the concepts put forth. And I know this is not the town council, but I want to thank the members at the town council publicly to take the time that they took for their public hearing, as well as listening to the residents, compiling their concerns, many of which were based upon some of the things residents talked about. And I'm thankful for Ms. Witten for putting them back out in memo form so that they could be transmitted to Planning and Zoning Commission. I don't need to submit a copy because that's already been done. I just want to make reference to the fact that there were many legitimate concerns brought up at that public hearing that were not addressed in Ms. Witten's memo, a copy of which you have from Mayor of this town, where he summarized what the town council member said. Some of those things were not. Some of those questions raised were not in Ms. Witten's synopsis. I'm also going to be presenting to you write-up of my presentation from that meeting because I did not have one with me to turn in, and I want to make sure that I'm not going to be repeating my concerns here now. I just want to make sure you're aware of them. The residents of Enfield and the surrounding towns all value the small-town rural character of their community. And I know when something was said before me, I didn't know that's the direction the town was going in. And I'm saying the same thing. It would be nice to know that we want to go in a different direction. That was true in 2011, and many of us do believe we still value the small-town rural character of our community. Myself, as well as many others here tonight, don't want to lose an important aspect of why we moved to or stayed in Enfield. My presentation at that public hearing concerned my understanding of what the vision of our town is, especially when it came to housing and public population. When I came to Enfield in the 70s, population was around 46,000. Fluctuated a little for the next 30 years. We raised our children in this town. There were 8 neighborhood elementary schools, 1 middle school, and 2 high schools. Now we have a population of 42,000. There's 6 elementary schools in use, 1 newly renovated middle school and a new high school. Previously, the town upgraded all 8 elementary schools. Hence, my question again is the same I had at the town council public hearing. You want more housing? If so, how much of an increase are we aiming for? Are we adding 3,000 new residents to bring us back up to that total of the 80 and 90s? Or are we going to want to increase the population to over 50,000, like reference is made to East Hartford? Or like 60,000, Bristol or Meriden? It would be nice as a resident of this town to really have an understanding of what your vision is. Do you want to go that large? If so, then maybe people will start thinking about whether they make renovations to their home or move to Suffield or Summers. It is said that by the town council public hearing by another resident, I live in the town of Enfield, not the city of Enfield. And yes, I also live in the town of Enfield. Increase its population back to what we had, more, then all the residents they start seeing a referendum asking townspeople to approve monies for rebuilding an elementary school we gave up. Part of Ms. Witten's summary included the vision statement of the 2011 Plan of Conservation and Development, prepared to guide the planning process of the next update. It's a very powerful vision statement if you read it. I'd like to submit, but I'm sure you already have it, the future potential section from the 2011 Plan of Conservation, which followed that vision statement. That information was gathered through many public hearings and focus groups, unlike what's happened with this Plan of Conservation and Development.
No, I'm sorry, your 5 is up, but you can come back a second time,
Okay.
unless you're close to
I'm
finish.
almost done.
All right, I'll give you an extra 30 seconds.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
That information paid attention to the community issues and desires. Information was easy to read, understand, and visualize. Please preserve and protect our small-town rural character. Please preserve and protect the open space. Please put the C before the D. And please protect our waterways. Thank you.
Thank you. Treasurer Pfeiffer Hall?
He doesn't want to move.
Be careful there.
Gretchen Pfeiffer Hall, 4 Summers Road. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on this important document. I have a few concerns pertaining to open space issues, maps, housing, and public hearings. I know some of my issues have already been sort of addressed, but I've got my script, so I'm going to stick to it. The maps need to be more legible. They should be a full page. Map 3, the Natural Diversity Database, is not the most current map available. Map 4, protected open space, should be divided into more categories, especially the municipal designations. Parks and athletics fields should be differentiated, and hiking trails should be listed. Farms in the State Farmland Preservation Program should either be in this map or a separate map in Chapter 4. The map for targeted investment area at the prison includes land that should be identified in the protected open space. There are 120 plus or minus acres that are preserved in perpetuity as mitigation for the development of Rentschler Field in East Hartford. They are preserved on both sides of Taylor Road for grassland bird habitat and managed by DEEP since approximately 2001. I read the staff comments on this issue. I was not under the impression that this is a rezone. My concern is that preserved land is not identified as open space. It should not be included in this TIA. If we are carrying over maps from the previous POCD, then they should accurately reflect the conditions. Page 23, Historic Resources. The Hartford, Bigelow, Carpet Mills, and Hazardville Historic Districts are both National Register Historic Districts. This needs to be clarified so as not to confuse people into thinking they are regulated the same way as a municipal historic district. Was a workshop on historic resources held prior to tonight's hearing as suggested in the staff comments? There needs to be a stronger emphasis on the preservation of historic resources across local government agencies and town land use departments. There are too many instances where the ball has been dropped during recent restoration and redevelopment projects on National Register listed properties in both Thompsonville and Hazardville. Page 52, the suggestion to limit or cease the practice of public hearings on site plan applications is still very concerning. Public hearings are another tool in the Planning and Zoning Commission's toolbox to gather information, enabling it to make an informed and best possible decision on an application. The residents of Enfield very often bring knowledge and attention to details that may be unknown to the applicant, staff, and commissioners. Public comments can bring about compromise, improve an applicant's design, and possibly address the concerns of all parties. I think we are all well aware if an application meets the zoning regulations, the commission must approve it. Page 48 and 49, reducing parking requirements under other multifamily strategies and promoting transit-oriented development in Thompsonville. This concerns me as there is currently an off-street parking shortage. As a property owner in Thompsonville, I can tell you it is a problem getting vehicles off the street during winter parking bans. People still have multiple vehicles per family. I'm all for the train station and hope it will bring prosperity to the Thompsonville neighborhood. I do believe parking can and should be reduced for commercial shopping areas. So I don't understand why multifamily housing should be allowed in the I-1 zone and do not support it. These are mostly away from the center of town. They contain much farmland with prime soils, and this contradicts the effort to encourage and preserve farming. I am strongly in favor of continuing efforts to preserve land for agricultural use and activities. This language should be strengthened to include funding of the Municipal Farmland Preservation Program by the Town Council. It should also include provisions for open space under the PA 490 program. I also very strongly support investing in amenities such as parks, walking trails such as a rail trail, and other passive recreational activities. Page 25 addresses the expectations of home buyers and why they choose to purchase in a given community. As a realtor, I can attest to the fact that they want amenities and the experience of place. And lastly, as an important document to guide us for the next decade, the people acknowledged should be addressed using proper names, not nicknames, and spelled correctly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Angela Foss?
Hello, Angela Foss, 16 Crescent Beach Drive. Dear members of the Planning and Zoning Commission, please do not pass the POCD document as written. The reasons for this are, number one, the town council rejected it. 2, inadequate details for conservation. 3, a huge list of residents' concerns already stated on February 13th. 4, I volunteered my time to assist in updates, but here we are 41 days later with no updates. I'm still happy to assist, free of charge, sit in anywhere you'd like me to. We have residents in our town that should be invited to update as well. They're more than capable of creating a document. That would be something we could be proud of. The plan is full of development with no clear conservation. Where is the necessary required open space? Huge initiatives for projects and what are being called improvements, but they leave off already approved projects. Inconsistent zoning overlays. Compared to the POCD 2011 documents, maps are poor, half of the pages are missing, deleting large amounts of important information, decreasing lot sizes and parking spaces. When everyone owns a car now, the spaces shouldn't decrease, the spaces should be increased. This is not the place for many statements like tax abatements and eliminating public hearings. It's not a political statement. But for me, most importantly, now attacking Crescent Lake from the other side. The prison side is a huge issue. This plan changes the zoning behind the lake, on the other side of the lake, from R88 to some special development? Is it going to be industrial? We have no clue what what the plan is to change it to. Please, please be sure that this does not go through do not allow the zoning to be corrected or changed. So make sure that the actual updated POCD does keep the R88 zoning that has been there to protect the lake from the other side. I have 2 maps that show 2011, R88, and the new map. The new map is all this purple, a special development. Is it going to be industrial? What does special development even mean? But it's obviously right attached to our lakes again from the other side. Thank you for your time. I please do ask you to protect us.
Thank you. Zach Zanoni?
Thank you, Zach Zanoni, 6 Howard Street, Enfield, Connecticut. So last public hearing to council, I relayed some concerns, specifically in regards to things that were within the document. Tonight, I have some concerns about things that are noticeably absent from the document. I fully echo what many have said already, that this document is incredibly ambiguous. There are towns that are smaller than us that have POCDs that are double the size. And what that means to me is we have lower standards for how we want to grow as a community, because the communities that have higher standards have more stringent and specific regulations and goals and vision that they want to achieve over the next 10 years. And I think that ensuring that our POCD is more in-depth and more detailed not only is beneficial to the residents, so we know as a community where we want to go over the next 10 years, but it's more helpful to staff so that they have substantive directives to achieve. I would like to suggest something, and I briefly discussed it at the last public hearing, but I noticed it didn't make it into council recommendations, is the Design Review Advisory Committee. You hear a lot of people talking tonight about the lack of character, specifically here in Enfield, and not only is there a lack of character, the character that we do have is currently under assault. So I would strongly encourage the Planning and Zoning to consider implementing a Design Advisory Review Committee so that we could look that over and really have greater control, not only to enhance the character that we already have, but also to preserve character that's been here for many, many years. And I would also like to note here, and then I'm going to provide this to Lori. Yes. So right here is a GIS map. Now, we have geographic information systems now, but I think they're probably antiquated at best and probably egregious at worst. It is very hard for residents to keep track of development here in this town. And what this is a geographic information system that is a map that allows residents to see what is going through our land use boards, what is currently under construction, what is approved, what was completed. It would be so incredibly helpful for the residents to be able to see what's going on in the town, okay? Because public engagement is exigent right now. That is the key. And making it easier for residents to be engaged is going to mean more residents are going to be engaged. Look at the amount of people that showed up tonight. There could be a lot more if it was easier for people to see what was occurring in our town. I also would like to note that it has been mentioned that the document right now is behind and we're out of compliance. And it was mentioned by a member of council that that was an extreme inconvenience. I happen to have the waiver that is filled out because we are out of compliance. It is 1 page. It takes 5 to 10 minutes to complete. And this waiver should not transcend the need for this commission to do their due diligence. Some people have also stated, oh, well, you know, we can make alterations, you know, a year from now. I fully disagree with that. I understand that we can, but we need to do it now. We need to ensure that this document is right the first time, not a year from now, not 2 years from now, because ultimately, we really need, as a town, a substantive, detailed direction of where we want to go. And with that in mind, I really would strongly urge the commission to consider either implementing the changes that have come in a multitude of different ways from the residents and the council, or to reject the document, because I don't think as it stands, as written, it should be passed. With that, I conclude my comments, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. think this is Christina Lang. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Christina Lang, 90 South Road. I'm not interested in the state mandates that say we have or haven't got enough affordable housing. I'm not interested in the new House Bill 6777, which is talking about giving homeowners some kind of a deed restriction, so when they die or when they sell their house, then it becomes affordable. I'm sure you've heard that's in the works, in the wind here in this state. I'm here to tell you a very short story about real people and live in this town. My story. In 1954, my dad had a GI Bill house built by Ledger Star, the 90 South Road that I'm in now. And I was a year and a half old. We moved in. My sister, a few months later, was born. We both were raised right through high school here. I worked in the area. I went away for a while. I came back in a very serious way about 10 years ago to help my mom. Meanwhile, what I found out was that Boomer Paradise we were in, which was really great, is now Boomer Senior Citizenville. And the real Enfield, of course, changed over these last few decades quite a lot. And I'm here to talk about what the real Enfield people, not new ones, us, need. My mother died in that house 4 years ago because she couldn't go downstairs anymore, so she wouldn't do the laundry. She couldn't go outside because she needed a ramp, and she didn't have that. She couldn't handle the outside needs of a property that was a single-family house. So she wanted, but didn't know how, to sell it and find a smaller place, which I don't want to call affordable because everyone thinks that's a tripwire. I'm going to call it WAM housing, WAM, workable, accessible, moderate, something that you can live in dignity in this house, in this town that she loves. There was nothing. I'm in that house now because of COVID. I came and I had to stay, so 3 or 4 years later, here I am. I am a boomer, and I will soon not be driving and soon not be needing a single-family house. What would I like? To sell it and find a moderate thing within the infill of our town, not built out in sprawl, where I can enjoy living in a place with dignity as I get older. Is there something? No. So why is it that the onus is on people who who hate the word multifamily housing? I'm looking for a buy. I'm not looking for something because I'm low income, although there's a lot of us here. Who are we in Enfield? We're not all Enfield Street people. I'm sorry. I appreciate very much that folks have come out here. Some of us would like to stay in this town. We have service workers, everyone who pumps the gas and pours the coffee and takes care of us in our health medical places, that they can't stay here. Our children and our grandchildren have gone because there's no place they can afford to either rent or live. Single people, young marrieds, there's nothing for this kind of people we are now. Enfield has changed. We're not all needing 3-bedroom houses with properties. We need different kinds of smaller, more manageable units, and we want to stay and be functional, civic, active people in our town. So my reason to be here tonight is I'm thinking of us. I'm thinking of the Board of Ed that just announced we're going to get 35 new teachers. Oh, yeah? Where are you going to get professionals who want to come into this town and live and can afford? Tell me. That's going to get our children nothing because we have no place for them to afford to live as either single professionals or young marrieds or in twos. So This town is not wanting to recognize that. I am here to ask in the POCD that you do not remove the discussion, the framework for a real, honest discussion on how we can be creative and get the housing that the people in town right now need. Not growing the town, not changing it any more than it already has, but it has changed. However, the zoning has not. There is exclusionary zoning going on in this POCD, and I didn't know what that was till I looked it up. Boy, was I disappointed. The first time I saw that was 97 years ago. The Supreme Court was saying, hey, all you little villages.
Excuse me, Ms. Lang, your 5 minutes is up. I'll give you a second chance if you want to come back.
I'll come back and tell you about that one.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Melissa Everett?
Hi, Melissa Everett, 2 Post Road. I have brief, non-technical comments. I came in here prepared to say this is a really good structure of a POCD. It has good bones. It doesn't have a lot of muscle. And the points that many people have made about the need for more detail, I think, are valid. I'm happy that we're looking at priority investment areas. I'm happy that we're looking at housing to meet local needs rather than just state mandates. I'm happy that we're acknowledging climate change and thinking about planning for resilience, planning for more clean energy. I'm happy that there are quantitative conservation targets in there. I know that from having been briefly on the steering committee, that the document is lean for readability, that nobody was trying to be half-baked about it. But I think what we have is kind of the beginning of a way forward. And what I believe we have is a structure that's clear, a broad consensus that we need lots more detail, and we have in this room a consulting firm. I mean, we really have. You have heard expertise on detail for open space, expertise on detail for historic preservation. We could go into expertise on detail for economic development. I'm sure it's here too. They're complementary additions. And I would like to call for or try to explore a path forward that gets to a yes, that doesn't abandon this structure, but that allows, maybe it's a series of work sessions that the community is invited to, that negotiates additions that are clearer and fairer and add the inputs that you've heard in a reasonable way, and in the next month or two, get to a document that everybody can be really proud of, including the section on implementation, which is in there, and I love that, and we could build more of a consensus around that. So I thank you for your patience and professionalism, and I have rarely been in a public hearing where I've learned so much. I really appreciate all of this.
Thank you. Jeffrey Foss?
Good evening. Jeffrey Foss, 16 Crescent Beach Drive, Enfield. I'm here to paint a little picture for you of what it's like to live on Crescent Lake. Typically, we wake up around 6 o'clock in the morning and we'll roll open the shade and stare out at the water. And one of the things we see almost every morning is this beautiful blue heron that comes flying in for its morning breakfast. And you can see this bird, its wingspan about 7 feet in diameter, and it glides across the water and heads over to the small pond and lands and has its morning breakfast. And it's the most beautiful thing you could ever imagine. Beautiful blue colors. Often we'll be sitting there looking out the window, and there's this beautiful bald-headed eagle that likes to hang out on our lake too. There's 2 of them actually at times. And I've been on walks crossing over the causeway, the bridge by our home, and the bald-headed eagle would smash the water at this high speed and grab a fish and take off into the sky for his meal. It's just beautiful nature, absolutely drop-dead gorgeous nature that we have. In fact, the blue heron that I'm speaking of is, we call this blue heron blue because of its color. And I was so fond of this beautiful bird that I had a picture that we placed over our fireplace of the bird. And it's 7 feet high. It's absolutely gorgeous. And so my point here is the idea of changing the zoning for the land beside Crescent Lake from R88 to industrial zoning would impact our lake, and it would only be a negative thing for this beautiful scenery that we're presented with. And there's 100 families that live on our lake, and I don't think that want all that to go away. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm going to ask a favor. I wonder, Donna, Dubinsky, if you're ready to come up now. Karen, I'd like you to wait till last because I know you have something you're kind of representing the Conservation Committee to in a way with a letter. So, Donna, would you mind coming up now? Would that be all right with you?
Go before Karen instead of following her any day of the week. I followed her last time and that wasn't easy. So thank you. Thank you. You made my life a little easier. We joke. Okay. Donna Dubinowski, 23 Betty Road. All right. You're not going to like this, Louis, but first, the chairman stated in the last meeting that Enfield is considered to be similar to cities of towns like Manchester, Wallingford, and Southington, not Suffield, Somers, and Longmeadow. But I point out that the POCD, the table of contents, regional context, we are compared to Somers, East Windsor, Suffield, and Longmeadow. The importance of using the surrounding towns, Section 8.3b of the Connecticut General Statutes requires municipalities to inform the regional planning agency and neighboring municipalities of zoning changes or regulations that may take place within 500 feet of the boundary of another municipality within the area of operation or regional and state plans of conservation and development. This helps the communities work together. While the population of the surrounding towns may be less than Enfield, we still are a farming community, and this has been said before, but as we've stressed the importance of farmland, we have over the years tried to push the conservation part of the POCD, while each time the administration pushes the development aspect of the plan. We need to preserve and protect open space, farmland, and parks. Residents have been stressing for years, we want the rural character to remain. You can't keep saying that ship sailed long ago. We have the ability to stop abusing the land we are given. And let's protect that open space, the parks, the walking trails. And in doing so, we will be enhancing the quality of life of us residents. For years, residents, through public hearings, keep saying we don't want to be a city like Hartford or Springfield. In 2023, and for the next 10 years, let's try to change the direction and focus on the conservation part of the POCD. Saying we need to compare to Southington, Wallingford, and Manchester, first, anywhere south of Hartford should never be used as a comparison for Enfield. Stop trying to compare us because of population. We do not have the retail, the industrial, or the businesses like Manchester, and we don't want to be Manchester. In the history, the 50s and 60s housing boom, schools were built all over town because the families were moving in with many children. 60s and everything had to change. We needed to grow. The town pushed manufacturing, industries, companies came in. We had Hallmark, we had Wallace Manufacturing, we had Lego. The industrial park had Eli Lilly. The retail with that growth, the Enfield Square was built. Then the square filed for its bankruptcy in 1983. That was the first time. 40 years later, guess what? The property looks to be bankrupt again. And we gave up all that rural land for this vision. We would be a large retail provider between Hartford and Springfield. We accepted the change and multiple strip malls over the years. Some fail, some are rebuilt, and we just keep building and building. We have more restaurants in Enfield than anybody needs, but I digress. I've lived in Enfield all my life, and the town residents keep saying we want to retain that bedroom community feel. Well, we loved the community we grew up in, and we wanted it to the same for our children. And it's documented in town meetings. It's said here again. The history, that doesn't mean we're afraid of change. It's the opposite. We do want change in town. And what we want is we want small. We don't want to keep growing. We don't want to be a big city. We want change that is, all right, sorry, lost my place. We do want change in town. The history is out there and we always wanted it, just not the change the administration wants. They always claim money as the reason. They must increase the grand list, bring in new businesses, or the taxes will go up on the residents. We must accept a developer because they're offering us up whatever amount of money, or maybe a tax abatement, or whatever. It's always not good for the town. It might be good for the town, or they think it's good for the town, but it's not good for the residents. If you look back, the town direction over all the previous POCDs, we wanted conservation. Those surrounding towns, Summer, Suffield, and Longmeadow, their number one strategies in their POCD preserve community resources, including open space, parks, and recreation for the residents, and the equality of the environment. We all know that leisure tourism is important. Longmeadow, while 90% of the town built out, the town is committed to expanding protected open spaces for recreation and wildlife conservation purposes. Why this matters is the Wolf Swamp Field and the Fanny Stebbins Memorial Wildlife Refuge consist of 338 acres, and they both are very close boundaries to Enfield, and they're both national landmarks. The town residents do want change, and we do want to move forward, and we want the focus to be more on expanding multi-use properties, 2- and 3-family multifamily homes, high-end housing for seniors, and the goal should be tailored to enhancing the services and infrastructure that would improve Enfield residents' quality of life. The change we want is to protect open space and provide more public parks with swings and small playground equipment. We need to allow kids to play naturally. Not all children want to be a part of a sports team or league. Children need to be able to run and play and learn in an environment comfortable to them. Small parks allow parents the flexibility to let a toddler learn how to navigate many obstacles and practicing to play with others. Socializing.
You can come back.
One more paragraph.
All right.
Allowing more recreational in town would, and I will stress this, possibly get these children's, teens, and adults off their phones and electronics. It would get them back to nature and to nurture the younger generations. Let them enjoy outdoors naturally versus organized or competitive sports. We might just get the change we all want. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Yep.
Karen LaPlante?
Yep. I didn't get one part. That's okay.
Now, if I may indulge as your chairman, just because I think pretty good idea what Karen's going to be doing here. So, Karen, I know you're going to be presenting something to us, I believe. Mm-hmm. Also, if possible, since you have the opportunity, if you can explain to us after you present it why it's your commission that you're on feels that it's important that we add this to the POCD. We'd be much appreciative as an education for us commissioners, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Karen LaPlante. I'm at 166 North Maple Street, but I'm here reading a letter from the Conservation Commission by our chairman, William Cody. Pardon me?
But
yeah.
Okay. Well, we want to read it in.
Yep.
This is to Robert Corsati, Mayor and Councilman at Large, Ellen Zappo-Sassu, Town Manager, Louis Fiore, Chairman, Enfield Planning and Zoning Commission, and Lori Witten, Director of Planning. And it's regarding POCD comments. I reference a letter from the Conservation Commission to the Council dated September 13th, 2022, asking that a PA 490 open space ordinance be considered and created. This request is attached for referral. As we hopefully near the finalization of the 2022 POCD, the Conservation Commission would like to bring to everyone's attention a state statute regarding PA 490 open space and the POCD. We refer to the highlighted section of the state statute below. 2012 Connecticut General Statutes, Title 12 Taxation, Chapter 203 Property Tax Assessment, Section 12-107E, Classification of Land as Open Space Land. A, and this is the highlighted section. The Planning Commission of any municipality in preparing a plan of conservation and development for such municipality may designate upon such plan areas which it recommends for preservation as areas of open space land, provided such designation is approved by a majority vote of the legislative body of such municipality. Now, we didn't highlight this, but it's still part of the statute. Land included in any area so designated upon such plan as finally adopted may be classified as open space land for purposes of property taxation or payments in lieu thereof if there has been no change in the use of such area which has adversely affected its essential character as an area of open space land between the date of the adoption of such plan and the date of such classification. And that's the end of the quote. In essence, Section 12-107E states that the area of town that can be classified as PA 490 open space must be identified in the POCD. The Enfield Conservation Commission asks that the entire area of the town of Enfield be listed in the 2022 POCD as eligible for PA 490 open space designation. When PA 490 open space ordinance is created, the state requirement for which part of the town is eligible would already be in place, and the town would not have to wait until the next POCD in 2032 to implement such a resolution. Thank you for listening. Regards, Enfield Conservation Commission, William Cody, Chairman. So what many of you know, we had a problem with the assessor. And we had asked, and a lot of people that had the 490 open space designation was more or less taken out of that designation for whatever the reason. I don't know, and none of us on the commission were able to determine if there was ever an ordinance that was done. Okay, so it might have been done way back when this got put in, and maybe that's why all those people got in 490 open space originally. But for some reason, these people were all taken out. So what we're saying is, okay, let's assume at this point there's no ordinance. Town council has to do the ordinance, but we have to put it, or you have to put it in the POCD to say what areas can have open space designation. Now, the way I also understand it, the ordinance can say, okay, we don't want to put any land in less than 5 acres. Okay, so that would limit, what land gets put in and where. And that the town council can do that through their process. So why we're saying the whole town is because we didn't want to limit just certain areas of the town at this point. We want to see what the council decided they wanted to do for acreage, and then we could maybe be, I think Ellington has specific areas that they designate. But we're so short of open space right now, if we can get any open space anywhere, I think we should try to get it and connect it to other areas. So that's more or less the reasoning behind that. And for some reason, it completely slipped my mind when we were doing the whole thing. And so I said, I can't believe we forgot that. So we would like to put that in.
So again, thank you for that, because I know you were a part of the commission. We both were. And
yeah.
That was just an oversight to why this probably wasn't taken up by the committee. I don't mean to be interceding.
Yeah.
Just use it as a chance to share information.
So I also, if you want to restart the clock, I have a comment personally some comments that I'd like to make.
Give me 1 second here.
Okay.
If anyone doesn't mind, I'm going to allow Karen to have her 3 minutes first, additional 3 minutes for a second round. Is that okay with?
Don't I get my original 5?
No, you just got your 5.
No, that was business. Then don't reset the clock if you're going to give me 5.
Does everyone agree that was business as a conservation committee? She gets another 5. Is everyone okay with that?
I think point of order. She was here representing the committee.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's
Thank
fine.
you.
Just want to make sure all the commissioners agree.
I'll go back and sign in as a different name.
That's okay. Yeah. Go ahead, Karen.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Karen LaPlante, 166 North Maple Street. As you know, I'm a member of the Conservation Commission, and I was part of the steering committee. I'm here tonight speaking as a citizen concerned with some content in the new plan. The first thing I don't have in my written document, but the state's plan of conservation and development. Great document. I don't know why we didn't start with this. I really don't. either the different commissions should have had this to discuss their goals and recommendations, because it has massive amounts of good, specific goals and growth principles and things like that. We should have started with that, and I'm afraid it could have been a much better plan if we started with that. Okay. Overall, we know the maps are horrendous and illegible. The TI areas were never discussed by the steering committee, to my knowledge, and I believe I only missed 2 meetings. On occasion, comments were submitted to Mr. Poland directly, and members were not able to discuss any suggested changes. Page 40. Evaluate the PA 490 to see if it can be made more farm-friendly. I would like to suggest the wording be changed to something like encourage and promote enrollment in the PA 490 program to qualified landowners to help preserve open space, agricultural, forest, and natural resource land. Page 45. I believe the first sentence under the overall residential pattern may need revision. These numbers are the same that was in the 2011 POCD, and they should be looked at and verified. It's hard to believe they haven't changed. Page 48, bullet number 2, allow multifamily housing in BR, BP, BL, and I-1 zone. What do you anticipate the population in Enfield to be in the next 10 years? People already have issues with warehouses in industrial district. As a majority of the soils in the industrial districts in town are designated as prime or important farmland soils, shouldn't we be thinking about how we can take advantage of this natural resource and encourage more farming of food on these soils and becoming a more sustainable community by providing food for the region instead of another housing development that might be sited on soils of less, that could be sited on soils of less importance. Same page, bullet number 3, I don't believe the required parking should be reduced. Page 52, bullet 1, removal of barriers to investment. By removing the reliance of special permit uses and limiting or ceasing the practice of holding public hearings, we are undermining the trust we have in the process of open and transparent government. We should not be afraid to deny, or we should not be afraid or deny the public an opportunity to speak at a public hearing on a proposed project. Many times they have valid concerns, provide additional information not provided in an application, and have firsthand knowledge of environmental concerns. The Conservation Commission has been told more than once that they may petition Inland Wetlands or Planning and Zoning Commission for a public hearing to voice their concerns on an application. Streamlining an application by ceasing public input denies the opportunity for citizens to voice their opinions and lacks transparency. Public hearings are an important part of the process and should not be stopped. Although Mr. Poland's response claims there is, quote, no intent to eliminate special permits and public hearings, end quote, it is right here in plain language. Quote, by reducing the reliance on special permit uses, limiting or ceasing the practice of holding public hearings on site plan applications, end quote, and it goes on. We are told repeatedly that if it meets regulations, P&Z must approve. What if it doesn't meet regulations? Let me give you a couple of examples. Agrimark property on North Maple Street did not meet your buffer regulations between residential properties and industrial properties. Neither did the Hallmark application. The required number of plantings were not met. Also, more recently, an application in the industrial zone on Moody Road did not have the proper frontage. Yet I don't think that was even mentioned in the staff comments or by the Planning and Zoning Commission. Page 52. Provide incentives to overcome the high cost of redevelopment. For multifamily rehabilitation projects, we should consider a pilot program that will assist with the removal of lead, asbestos, and mold in our older homes. Lead, asbestos, and other building materials thought to be safe in the past have now created an added cost to these buildings becoming safe and usable again. We can watch as our children and occupants suffer from poor environmental quality, or we can provide incentives to remove these contaminants from these homes. Maybe this could be a revolving fund or a loan forgiveness program that encourages reuse of existing homes. By not putting our citizens and children in danger of these known environmental hazards, we will avoid a multitude of future health issues.
Karen, you're almost over 5.
I got that much.
Why don't you come back?
Okay.
Since I have all the signatures, anyone who wanted to speak? We'll now start the second round. Is there anyone who hasn't spoken for the first time that'd like to speak? I think everybody has. I'm looking at the audience. So, Nikki Price, you're back up. for 3 minutes.
Good evening, Nikki Price, 1324 Enfield Street. A few housekeeping items I would like to address at this time. I'm submitting the Conservation Development Policies, the Plan for Connecticut 2018 to 2023 Growth Management Principle Number 4, Conserve and Restore the Natural Environment, Cultural and Historical Resources in Traditional Rural Lands. If the state and other municipalities are able to achieve details in their POCD regarding preserving, acquiring, and protecting open space, shouldn't Enfield be able to do the same? At the Town Council meeting on March 20th, there was a discussion on the POCD, to which is noted in Lori Witten's memo dated March 16th, regarding the POCD may be modified at any time, provided changes follow state statutory requirements for notices, hearings, etc. Yes, this is true because the Office of Legislative Research Local Plans of Conservation Development recognizes the POCD is not a stagnant document because of the difficulty anticipating changes during the POCD's 10-year time frame. If dramatic changes, i.e. financial hardships, alters goals or strategy in the POCD, then amendments can be made to address these changes with the state after it goes through the statutory requirements. It does not say, let's submit a substandard POCD, then make the necessary changes we need. Should this commission go down this road, then a timetable, schedules of meetings needs to be incorporated into the POCD, such as holding annual, biannual, or quarterly public information meetings, annual, biannual, or quality workshops for all interested persons. And I just want to say thank you for everything that you guys do in allowing us, the public, to speak. My first thing is I'm going to submit my remarks, and I have attached all the stuff for Enfield and the survey. Thank you.
Thank you. Christina Lang, did you want to come back up a second time? No? Patrick Thibodeau? Yep. Go ahead, Patrick.
Patrick Thibodeau, excuse me, 20 Cora Street. I really appreciate the time you all put in for this. Thank you. I just want to make a couple points. You know, you have to decide whether you want the town population to decline. If that's what you want, then that's easy to do. You also have to decide whether you want to create a community that is inhospitable to older people and younger people who want to buy a property in this town, a smaller one. And right now, it is, okay? And that's the truth. The only really compromise I could see on where we would put this kind of housing is in the mall area and in the borderline industrial park area. That's the area that's probably going to get the less amount of screaming from people in this community. And I really don't see any, because you're not going to drop it in the residential areas because there'll be pitchforks and torches. So what I really like to see you do is focus on how you can develop the mall area and the adjoining industrial areas. Don't shut that down to residential. Keep an open mind on that, because they're right next to the retail. And when you put the residential there, you strengthen our retail, which is in the POCD. And we really need to strengthen our retail because it's getting hammered by a declining population in our town that is getting older, that is spending less, that is having fewer children. And so our retailers are taking a hit. And we are, you know, if we want to keep it alive, we need to put housing. What I'm worried about, we're going to get in the mall, we're going to get a medical emporium to take care of the old people in this town. And you know, so people go back to the historic district and go back to the medical emporium, and that'll be it for our community. But we can have something different if you allow it to happen, and you really need to allow it to happen. And trust me, none of this stuff that I'm talking about will happen in a time frame that's reasonable to me. I'm already screwed as far as having a future in this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen?
Rose Solanitz. No, I'm sorry. It was a joke. Karen LaPlante, 166 North Maple Street. Page 54 of the new plan mentions Enfield's community facilities are adequate and generally serving the needs of the community. Yet the 2011 POCD, page 195, table 46, there is a needs analysis for our publicly owned recreation facilities that talks about our need for certain park types and acreage. Based on our population, the ideal park acreage was recommended to be about 735 acres. At that time, the current park acreage was just over 465 acres. We have not had a substantial increase in park acreage in the past 11 years as recommended in our last POCD. Parks, open space, hiking, and biking trails are all important parts of the character of the community and have continually ranked high on the list of priorities in town surveys. At this point, we do not know the status or acreage of our open spaces and parks. Based upon the goal of this plan of the preserving 20% of the town as open space, that means we should be preserving about 4,600 acres, 4,600 acres. We are nowhere near that goal. Yet we continue to close schools, abandon them, and give away the property so we can get more tax dollars. What will we do when there is a turnaround in our population? Us old folks are replaced by the young families with children, and we now need to build our schools back up again. Would it be more prudent to maybe hold on to those properties, lease them, and new facilities could be built when the time arises? It would be terrible if we had to pay a premium for land to build future facilities if there is any land available at that point. Future sewer expansion should take into consideration permanently preserved open space and farmland. As we cannot see the maps, it is difficult to comment on those maps. Page 81 talks about TIAB, corporate campus, BP zoning districts. Well, Mass Mutual might be in the BP zoning district, and that meets that criteria, but the other area between Shaker and Moody does not. It is an industrial zone. Thank you for your patience, and good luck.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak for a second time? Yeah. Lori had her hand up first.
That's fine. No, I would defer to you. Lori Longy, 1427 Enfield Street. Site plans and special permits may have a public hearing, and people have the right to talk about traffic, circulation and parking, landscaping and screening, design standards. These are the site plan approval criterias. Why would we want to eliminate anyone that might want to talk about or bring up something unknown or specific to these areas, to the boards? Information is power. If the Public Act 2029 has a requirement of one parking space per studio, one bedroom, and 2 spaces per 2-bedroom, then why would we want to go down to 1.75 parking spaces for a 2-bedroom, which is less than what the state just reduced its own parking down in this Public Act? I noticed the word character in our old plan, and I noticed character in other towns' new plan that are in the state of Connecticut. It can be used. It just needs to be defined to what it means for each town. That's in Public Act 21-29, page 10. Public Act 2129 does allow zoning commissions to regulate height, density, and lot coverage. Enfield has always had a height restriction in all residential zones of 2.5 stories, except in the TVC zone where there's a maximum of 3. The POCD needs to mention that in order to keep Enfield its own little town feel, its existing heights shall remain for residential zones. Business zones, where is most likely going to be mixed use, can be higher. Multifamily housing in our regulation is a district and not a zone. However, it's confusing when trying to use different terms most people are either not familiar with. So my suggestion is, since the charts in the POCD presently break it down by single family, 2 family, 3 and 4 family, and then over 5 units as multi, that should really remain the definition throughout the book. In my world of appraising properties, residential is 1 to 4 family. Vernon used single family, 2 to 4 family, and over 5 units is considered multifamily. The state defined multifamily in Public Act 21-29 on page 11 as over 5 units is multifamily. You need to consider how many parcels reducing down the multifamily housing will actually affect in this town. We seem to be going to the extreme 60 to 5, but now it's being suggested to go 10, 15, when in fact we had 60. The proper way to go is 60, 55, or 50. Those lower numbers at 10 and 15 are very extreme for Enfield.
Sorry, Lori, your 3 minutes are up.
Okay, I can come back?
Nope, that's it.
Okay.
You can wrap it up in about 30 seconds. I'll let you summarize quickly.
I want to summarize the end.
Let you
I
summarize.
totally agree with focus groups. And the last POCD had many meetings, round table, and then the people came out and started talking about specific areas, housing or whatever. I do think the public participation of the town was lacking, and I think these hearings should stay open. I think that the document, before it's final, people should be able to weigh in, and I would also volunteer my time. Not that you want it, but I would do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Ellen, I think you wanted to come up a second time? Yep.
Mary Ellen DeLuzio, 1330 Enfield Street. Briefly, just like to say I concur with most of the comments today, especially the ones Karen made. One of the points I wanted to bring up was the zoning districts mentioned in the current book are BRBP and I-1 zoning districts. There's no definition for that, but I now know what they mean. There's no mention of other types of zoning districts, such as residential or residential historic. I propose keeping those current POCD pages 245 and 246. I've attached them. And I also propose further categories that I mentioned in my previous presentation. Under the same section, proposed POCD page 9, it states you create a permitting process that is simple, swift, and certain. I've learned through my experience with zoning issues, nothing is certain. However, I do support a process that is swift, simple, and clear, like Lori said. On page 10, chapter 4, removal barriers to investment. Consultant Don Poland wrote in detail about the zoning approvals granted by your committee. In particular, he outlined approvals for permitted uses that are allowed by as of right, by staff zoning permit, or by commission site plan. These approvals are based on administrative reviews to ensure compliance with zoning regulations. But what if the information or data submitted by the applicant to the review staff is inaccurate or done wrong? What if the information or data at the town offices could be inaccurate or wrong? Then the information you have to make your decision is wrong. I saw this myself with a recent zoning application. And as I'm sure you know, these mistakes are usually brought up at a public hearing as a public and the people affected by the proposal scrutinize the application. This is where the public needs to have input. Please do not remove public input through the hearings. In regards to other comments, I'm here because I love the historic district. I don't think of myself as a political force. Never thought of it that way. I'm just a simple girl who loves my historic home and the street I live on and all those properties. I think they're an asset for our town that doesn't exist anywhere else and needs conservation and protection. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak for a second time? Okay, Gretchen, sure, come on up.
Gretchen Pfeiffer Hall, 4 Summers Road. I just want to say how proud I am of all the people that spoke this evening. Whether I agreed with them or not, I think everybody put a lot of thought, a lot of effort and research into the statements that they made. But I also want to say, I think that this is a diverse community, that there's something for everybody on every economic scale. And I'm a little bit disheartened that the people that live on Enfield Street have been sort of described as, and I won't say, it wasn't these words, but sort of selfish. And to me, as somebody who loves historic properties, they're stewards of something that's unique in our town. And we should be happy and grateful that, you know, those people are able to afford to preserve them, because it's very expensive. Very expensive, and to do it right is not easy. So I think there are many different types of housing in our community, and there may not be enough small homes, and it may be because it's not economically feasible to build them. But I believe that there is it's not for sale, but the old Blair Manor is being converted, I think, into some sort of residential housing. So it just sort of is disheartening to hear that some people feel that we're not welcoming, because I think that we are welcoming. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else who hasn't spoken a second time? See, now I just have a couple of comments I'm going to just make here before I ask the commission what they'd like to do. As chairman, if I may take the prerogative here as your chairman. The first thing I'd like to mention is certainly I want to thank everyone who's came tonight. I want to thank everyone who came to the council public hearing. I want to thank everyone who gave us all the information. And believe me, I'm sure all of us, I know I have all the information and all your comments, and I've watched all the videos. The Plan of Conservation Committee that was put together by the prior town council 2.5 years ago was meeting many, many meetings long before I got involved, being chairman here. I think myself and Karan came on later on. We constituted a new planning zoning January of 2022. And I know it was ongoing prior to that and went through COVID. So this has been an ongoing process that, in all honesty, it needs to end. And we need to move on. And that's just my comment from as a chairman. We need to move on as a commission. Believe me, we have all your comments. I have cross-referenced all your comments and the council's, ready to start the deliberations with this commission in a moment's notice. So in my opinion, to need to keep the public hearing open, there's no need to keep it open. We need to deliberate ourselves to put this plan of conservation development together so we can submit it to the state of Connecticut and move on. So having said that, as your chairman, I propose that we close the public hearing. If the commission so desires, we can start deliberations tonight if we like. It's only 8:15, or we can digest some more of this and go back and rehash the notes and read the testimonies that everyone gave us and start next Thursday. Because that is our goal, is to deliberate almost every single comment. We're going to go through every page, chapter by chapter. And sure, we're going to miss some things. Yeah, absolutely, we're going to miss some things. We're only human. But that is the goal, to debate or deliberate, and we're going to have to vote on every chapter. And 5 of us are going, out of the 7, are going to have to agree to every chapter to override the town council's veto. And that's what we have to do. The alternates will be able to participate in discussions, but in this particular instance with this document, you're not going to be able to vote. That is the procedure, and that's what we're going to do. And I wanted to explain that to everybody so you understood where we are here tonight. So seeing none, the testimony has been received. We have all the information I believe that we need. I would entertain a motion to close this public hearing. Motion made by Commissioner Majumdar to close this public hearing. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Helinski. Is there a discussion on closing this public hearing? Do we need a roll call on that, or think just a hand? We'll do a roll call if you don't mind, Mr. Secretary.
Lou Fiore,
Yes, to close the public hearing.
Linda DeGray,
Yes, to close the public hearing.
Virginia Higley,
4,
Francis Alamo,
Yes.
Kiran Majmudar,
4.
Ken Helinski,
4.
and John Petronella is 4.
So let the record show is unanimous to close the public hearing. So having said that, please don't leave yet. Having said that, would you like to take a short recess and start the deliberations chapter by chapter tonight, or do you really think it's in our best interest to, just go home and collect our notes again and get ready for next Thursday? I'm gonna, and actually the alternates can chip in on this because you are part of the deliberations. So I'll start with Karan. Karan, would you like to take a break and start tonight, or would you want to start next Thursday?
Do you want to go through this?
I'd like to discuss it briefly. I'd like to discuss it briefly, but I think all of us, most of us, will need to look at each chapter and each comment a little more carefully. So detailed deliberation next Thursday.
Okay.
But something very preliminary today.
Okay. I'm gonna go back and forth. Nick?
I agree with
Karan? Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I just want to be sure that when we do start, everything's going to be incorporated into the document.
But we don't know that. We're going to have to.
Well, no, but I mean, like the maps, people had concern about, nice maps. And,
Okay, we'll start. All right, so you want to continue to live at night, get some of those questions answered? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, we should have a clean document, especially the stuff the council wanted in there.
Chris?
I agree. I think there's some things we can discuss today and complete detail next week.
Okay.
I agree. I think we can start some discussions tonight. I, for one, would like to have a chance to complete my cross-sectioning like you did.
Yeah.
I'm about 3/4 of the way through all the comments, so I need a little more time to do that.
Okay. Commissioner Gray? Vice Chairman?
I'd like to start the discussion, having watched the public hearing for the council twice, read the POCD several times, have my own comments that.
Okay.
And then tonight, we have so much more information. I'd like to take some time with that, too. Thanks.
I'm for deliberating starting tonight.
Okay. Commissioner Higley?
next Thursday.
Next Thursday, okay. All right. Seeing that, what we're going to do tonight is we're going to take about a 5-minute recess here, and then we're going to, and I don't want to say start deliberate, I don't want to go through chapter by chapter tonight, but there are some things that we can talk about so that we're all set to start next Thursday. Does that sound reasonable, everybody? So is there a motion to take a 5-minute recess? Well, before we do that, hold on. I just want to mention that next Thursday, let's do one thing before the audience leaves. I know these people are really into it. What time do you want to start next Thursday? 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock?
Or 6:30?
I want to do that. 6 or 7?
6.
Does 6 work all right tonight with everybody? We do have a lot to go through. So we're going to set our special meeting, which will only be for discussion on the POCD, chapter by chapter, will begin next Thursday night at 6 o'clock right here in this room. Anything else on that agenda would only be of an emergency nature that the town manager or someone believes we have to do.
And like I said, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Everything cleaned up for us and.
Well, we're going to get to that.
Pile.
I want to see what you mean by cleaned up. So I'm not going to promise that. We're going to talk about that after our recess. Okay. All right. Is everybody all set? Georgie?
I just want to point out one thing, that, when you, after the recess, and if you want to start going through the chapters, you definitely can.
No.
But we did start a list of potential changes and considerations to maybe help kickstart that process. I just wanted to put that out there.
Yep, we'll go through that. We're fully aware of that list. Thank you. All right, so I'll entertain a motion for a quick 5-minute recess. Motion made by Vice Chairman DeGray. Is there a second? Seconded by Secretary Petronella. 5-minute recess, everybody. Still on draft of plan of conservation and development. As you know. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure we're okay. Yeah. It's okay. As you know, we closed the public hearing. We're not really going to start going into detail on the POCD tonight because we received more information, and I really want to give each and every one of you an opportunity to go home and think about this and go back through your notes. Because I just want to lay out next Thursday. We're going to be going, wrong book. We're going to be going through chapter by chapter. And as you can already see, and I'll go back through tonight because some other things came in. I've already have cross-reference of all, because some of the things are on multiple pages, right? I'll give you an example. The statement about public hearings, limiting public hearings, that's on like 3 different, so I've cross-referenced so that we're not all jumping around with our heads cut off. So ready to go on that next week. And we're going to have to do chapter by chapter. We'll take our time chapter by chapter, any changes we want to make, any suggestions, we'll discuss it as a group. All right, we have to vote chapter by chapter. 5 of us are going to have to agree for each changes on that chapter. We will have a roll call vote for each chapter, okay? All right, does that make sense to everybody? Because the council rejected this. We have to override it, and 5 out of the 7 have to agree. Okay? I can't be more honest than that, all right? I'm not holding anything back. I'm hoping Vinny's watching this, or he will. The alternates certainly can participate in all the discussions, bring up any changes they want to see or something we missed. They just won't be able to vote on that. You won't be able to vote unless a regular member can't make it. And next month is, no, I think this is next month, right? No, it's Chris's month. Give me a second. Yeah, this is Chris's month. So, Chris, you're on. If one of the members, gets sick and can't make it, you would sit in, and then of course Nick or Vinny after to have someone else. So I am prepared to start that way next Thursday. Okay, it's 8:30, and I'm not suggesting we could start tonight, but I would recommend we don't do that. So that is how we really need to proceed. I'm probably going to go chapter by chapter, but I think again to save the agita, because I think the chapter we're probably going to be discussing the most is chapter 5, which is the housing part. So I'm probably going to recommend that we do chapter 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then go back to 5, because I think that might take the most time. I'm trying to knock off the low-hanging fruit. Again, as your chairman, I ask that you allow me to drive the bus, because we can't have multiple bus drivers. But if I'm missing something when we're in a chapter, please, and the same with staff too, please, next week, bring it to my attention. Hey, Lou, hey, you missed that, that paragraph, or you missed that statement. I really want to talk about that, because I might not have everything, okay? I'm making a good faith effort to have everything, and I think I've got everything. I've read all the comments, and, basically, most of the people who were here tonight were the same ones that were at the council public hearing also. So does that kind of make sense to everybody? I think it's imperative. I would love to see us come together on 7-0 votes on everything. That would be wonderful. I think that sends a wonderful message if we can. All right, unanimous. It would really send the right message to the community and to other members of the process. But if we can't, that's fine too. But it's really important that we come together as much as we can each one of these chapters. It's also important that we finish this project. All right, we need to finish it. We need to finish it, and we need to get it off to OMB. Whoever else, I think that's where it goes, OMB or whoever. And then because we have to, after that, immediately begin our housing plan before we do the regulation updates. So again, you see how this all just ties in together, right? We're going to do this, and then we're going to add an agenda, and maybe not that April meeting because they're full, for the housing plan, and then after that, we're going to start on taking a look with staff about changing the regulations. So you can see how important it is for us to finish this document and move on. After 2.5 years, it's got to get finished. It's never going to be perfect. Yeah, forget about it. I never worked on anything that ever was perfect. So having said that, I know Frank, you had some questions.
Yeah. So the first one is just a procedure question or a logistic question. So we're going to vote on each chapter, and then when we're done, if it all passes, do we vote on the whole document as a whole?
Yeah, we probably would make it solid. Yeah.
Yep. Then the other thing I was talking about, having everything kind of in order, because like you were just saying, I have things in like 5 or 6 different piles.
Yep.
So over the next week, if staff, I know you're busy, if we can get some kind of working, with everything kind of in chronological order, maybe by.
This is the working document.
Right, but then we have all the comments.
Yeah,
and
you got to
all-
do that yourself.
Okay.
You need to do that. You know, I'm not being, that's what I did, that's what Kenny's doing. You need to do that yourself.
I've been doing it. I've watched the video. I went to the public hearings as well.
Yeah.
But just so we can be more efficient moving through the process, so we all have like, I don't know, maybe a chronological A, B, C, D.
I do have that.
But all of us. I mean,
I
just
have,
so we're not.
I think I have 80% of everything. I don't want to ask staff to do that. They have many, many more tasks to do.
I'm just saying that only so we can, use our time and make it, if you're looking here and I'm looking there, and that's fine if we don't, but I just trying to, good saving of time.
I
and
think
have
that's too much
everybody-
to ask of staff. With the amount of applications you saw here tonight and everything, that's just planning and zoning. You've got inland wetlands, you've got
I understand.
ZBA. They don't have probably time to do that. They took a shot at it.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead, Laura, I'm sorry. And you don't have
So,
to. I just
no,
want
no.
this to go smooth.
No, we can't make the changes for you.
Right.
I've synthesized the majority of the comments. I did not address every comment, no. What I did is I synthesized most of them because the ones that I commented on are the ones that were commented the most. That, people had comments on originally and actually through time. Until you make the decision that you want to add something, delete something, or whatnot, we can't make that into the plan for you to see. We're going to have to draw it up as we're doing it. And then afterwards, obviously we can, do our draft from that and then bring it back to you whether or not we, so you could correct the draft, but if you decide to take action on what changes you agree to next week, we're going to be writing them out into the plan, literally, like by hand. So, or maybe, I don't have the ability to type it out. I'm much better at writing it out. So, and Don is willing to be, Don can be there next week. I don't know if he can be there in person. So that's the other
My only
thing.
concern is that we're all looking at the same thing at the same time.
Well, you all have the
I
final
will
draft.
drive the bus, so you will be looking at the same thing at the same time. I
Just
promise
to-
you that. That's my goal. That's my job as chairman,
Yeah.
to make sure that we're all looking at the same thing at the same time. Okay?
Yeah.
I promise.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I'll miss one or two things.
No,
but,
no, just so we.
but I guarantee I'm going to get 85, 90%. Okay? I promise. That's my promise.
No, it's fine.
Yes.
I'd just like to make a suggestion is maybe as we're going through this again at home with all of this information, that you write your questions down. Chapter 1, paragraph 1. I'm not sure I agree with this because should it be? And I think that would help facilitate the movement through it because I don't know what your question will be or what Karam's question, Commissioner Majumdar. Is that good?
Hey.
What his questions will be, or what mine will be, or anybody else's. So just doing that will help.
Ken?
I think with the number of people we have on this commission, and I'm not concerned about missing any details. I mean, we have all of us here, the alternates can participate as well and help with all this. And it's just, everyone here is, I think, pretty experienced at government in town and how it works and how we want to do this thing. So I just see us moving right along through the paragraphs and doing our thing. I mean, we may miss something. I'm sure we'll be reminded if we do. So I'm very confident that we can go through this whole thing and get it done right.
Yeah, me too. I am too. I have confidence in this board. I think that, the 10 of us are good people. We're intelligent. We know the town. We know the issues. We've heard all the statements over and over again. Which is good sometimes. We all made our notes. So I don't, it's going to take a little time. We're going to slug through it a little bit. But I'd be quite honest with you, unless we have some real major hiccups, I think we're going to get done next Thursday night. I really do. Unless there's a major hiccup, I really do. I've worked with you guys a year and a half now. I kind of, know what you're capable of doing. So I think we can do that.
A lot of work has gone into this document. A lot of effort has been put into it by many, many people,
Yeah.
including the staff, including the public, including the commissioners, and of course, the Don Poland, our consultant.
Yeah.
And there are finer points that we have heard today. They need to be incorporated, they need to be deliberate.
Excuse me.
And I think we all have all of those comments very well understood. So it shouldn't be that big a process. It should not be that complex a process.
Yeah.
It should be fairly simple.
Yeah. I think we kind of all know the 20, the key points that keep getting brought up over and over again that we need to discuss as a commission. Yeah.
And one of those key points I heard at every public hearing was the mapping. They can't, are we going to have some better maps tonight, for next week?
And I did clarify that again tonight,
Okay,
that
good.
we are going to have a map book, and the maps will be larger in the final product.
Okay.
Final product, Frank.
Not next week to us to look at?
No.
No.
Oh, final product.
Final product.
Final product, yes.
I don't know if that helps the public, but they're done with the public hearing, so it's for us.
Well, again, if I, one more, at least editorial comment, if I may, again, just to bring this point, and please correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, there was a conscious effort when, long before, some of us were on this committee or got involved with this 2 years ago, that they wanted to have a different POC document. One that was more technical in nature, was short and brief, without all the adjectives, without all the different maps, without all the blows, without all the nice adjectives and the verbiage. And it was consciously made by that commission that the Planning and Zoning Department committee put together 2.5 years ago. So yes, this POCD is different from the one in 2011. It's probably different from the one in 2001. That was a conscious effort made by the committee at that time. So, we didn't turn around this past in January 2022 with a new, committee and new people on there, reinvent the wheel. We took what they gave us, and we're building on that. And that's just the way it is. We can't turn back the clock and start all over again. So I just wanted to make that point. When we keep bringing up that it's smaller, it doesn't have all the information at the last one. Yeah, that was a conscious effort that was made to be more technical in nature.
Yeah, so I was on the planning and zoning when it started.
Yes.
Right,
Yeah,
so-
you would have been. Yep.
I don't remember what the RFQ or RFP said when they were interviewing. I wasn't part of the interviewing of the experts. So I'm sure the town put out an RFP or an RFQ on what should be and how it should be and all that stuff, but I wasn't part of that process. I wasn't in the, and unfortunately, I think the people that were on the P&Z at that time aren't here anymore. So I'm not sure what we were supposed to see relative to hiring the consultant.
We went through a rigorous RFP process, and if you might recall, we were just about ready to start interviews, and COVID hit. So then we had to stop everything for a couple months until we could figure out how can we do interviews over the web. It was like, what is this Teams thing? Zoom? What's a Zoom? So it took a little bit of time, and so, if you want to see what the RFP was.
No, not just curious. I think that when you do, I think it could have spelled out. I don't know for sure that what kind of maps were to be produced, and because they're hiring somebody, it's about what they're going to charge the town. I don't remember the RFQ or the RFP.
Yeah. So if you remember, two of the members, Charlie Ladd and Richard Suzak.
They were right. They were
on
an
the
interview
committee.
process. Yeah.
Yeah, they were the ones.
Yep.
That did the interviews.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I got a question for staff. Lori, this POCD, when completed, it gets posted on the town's website.
Oh, yes.
So, we keep talking about the maps, and I agree that the map should be clear and so forth, and I'm not sure to what level they're going to be once you get them published in the book, but if as an attachment to the POCD, you can have all the maps in a separate folder or in an attachment or in a link where they can actually look at the large scale 24 by 36 sheet or whatever that's clear. Great, because you know what happens too. You can take a clear document, when you reduce it, it's blurry, and then when you blow it up, it's still blurry. Or blow up on a computer.
We're going to have the map book.
Yep.
So all the maps that are in this will be in a separate document.
Right. Also, another question.
Digitally and physically.
With respect to the whole POCD committee that worked on this, all the individuals from the different commissions, and there was also some public that was invited or was able to participate in this as well, correct?
Yep, we had survey, we had a couple of workshops. Yep.
Correct. And just, I was hearing discussions tonight that, that the public wasn't allowed to be on it, but the public did participate, or they were allowed to volunteer or participate and be appointed to it, correct?
Yeah.
Thank
Well,
you.
and not to mention, we had the one public meeting over at the annex, and nobody came.
Yep. Understood.
We were hoping for, a whole bunch of people to come, and nobody came, and hardly anybody spoke. So.
That's what I thought. Thank you.
That was a nice meeting. It was, nice idea. Just didn't bear enough fruit.
No, nobody
All right.
seemed, at that time, nobody seemed to care.
Any other sorry. I'm sorry, Ken. Sorry, Ken.
I was,
Ken, your mic.
oh, I'm sorry. I was looking the other night at the front part of the POCD, and I was kind of surprised to learn that there were 20 people on that committee, on the steering committee. I mean, and a significant diversity of different types of people on that committee from different walks of life. So I think, there was significant effort put in by that committee over what, a year and a half, 2 years?
Over 2.5.
Yeah, so that's the document that was decided upon to move forward. So I just think that's significant, not to lose that particular point.
Actually, there was more than 20. I think Lori found some other names that might have been omitted.
Well, I
from that
counted
list.
20 names in the book.
I think she's adding a few more that she found.
Sure.
Well,
But that's a
and
very
many
good
of
point,
the
Ken.
people that were here today were on the steering committee.
Yeah.
Not many, but quite a few.
Well, we have 3 counselors that were on that committee.
Yep.
Yep.
And there was people who spoke tonight that were on that committee.
And as the time went, it morphed and changed as well. As the Planning and Zoning Commission was one entity, and then they kind of morphed and changed into what you are now. And
Yep.
the membership changed throughout the whole process, which was also part of the problem.
We had 2 councils that were on the committee who voted
Lack of
against it, if I'm not
consistency.
mistaken, the other night.
Yeah.
Funny how that is. All right, so I think we're done with the plant conservation for tonight discussion. Move on to next Thursday. All right, everybody all set?
Yep.
6 o'clock.
Any old business? Is there any other business? We already talked
No,
about.
Nothing,
Nothing? Nothing on the enforcement report?
nothing.
Nothing on
I was told
correspondence?
not to put anything else on the
Yeah, I know.
agenda.
I'm just going through. Just nothing on for correspondence, nothing, any commissioners' correspondence? Director plan report, I don't think you have any tonight?
We're working on the POCD finalization.
Opportunities, unresolved issues, anybody want to bring anything up? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So
Motion made by Vice Chairman DeGray, seconded by Commissioner Helinski to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Let the record show that, thank you, Ginny, thank you very much. And they showed it was unanimous to adjourn. This meeting of the Planning and Zoning is adjourned at 8:45. Thank you very much, everybody. Good night.